Shalom, Havarim, and hello, friends. It's good to be with you here on this Sunday morning, or whenever it is that you're watching this. As I'm sure you know, many businesses are opening up again. This past weekend, Stanton shut down the downtown area roads and had outdoor dining. Many stores have begun to allow customers in again, taking the appropriate precautions. And I even heard, you probably heard this as well, that this week the Lego store opened back up. You know, there's an entire store dedicated to selling Legos. Well, this week the Lego store reopened. Yeah, people were lined up for blocks. I know, that's a good one. Well, today we are returning to the lectionary text, and our passage today comes from Matthew chapter 9 and 10. And we begin with the words of Jesus as he's sending out his disciples to begin ministry. And Jesus says in Matthew chapter 10, verse 8, he tells the disciples to heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. And then he says to them, freely you have received, freely give. So there's this idea of reciprocity. You have received, now give. They've received from Jesus, now give to the people. They've received from the people hospitality. Now they are to give to others. So when I read this, I thought of an episode of one of my favorite television shows. It's called The Big Bang Theory. And The Big Bang Theory is the story about these scientists. They're all brilliant, but they're also kind of quirky. And among these scientists, the most brilliant and most quirky is probably Sheldon Cooper. He's a physicist. And in one episode, Sheldon is talking about his let's call it his lack of interest in a system of gift giving. I think it was Christmas, and all the energy around giving gifts, Sheldon just wasn't into it. And he critiques the system of gift giving. He says, I'm supposed to spend a lot of time thinking about what to give you, but I'm also trying to think about what you might give me, because I want to give you something that is roughly of equal value to that which you're going to give me. And he says, really, there's no point in this. If I'm going to get you something that's worth $25 and you're going to get me something that's worth $25, why don't I just keep my money and buy something that I really want anyway? Because there's a good chance in Sheldon Cooper's mind that he's not going to like what somebody else gets him. As some in my family know, I'm kind of on board with Sheldon here. I don't really like to give and receive gifts. And part of it is, you know, if I receive something from you and I give you something, and I give you something that's worth significantly less than what you gave to me. Say you gave me a new laptop and I got you a pad of paper. I owe you. I am behind. And I think that's part of the problem. I'm thinking about this all wrong. This idea of reciprocity, that you give and receive in equal amounts. That's not biblical. So if we look at the biblical stories that have to do with this word hospitality, I Googled hospitality in the Bible, and I got too many, well, I was going to say too many to count, too many references, more references than I cared to count. Just many times these different passages speaking about how we are to help the strangers in our land and the foreigners among us and those who are in need. We're to show hospitality to these people. And over again, in all of these passages, almost every time, it says the reason that we are supposed to show people hospitality is because God has freely given to you. Freely you have received, now freely you should give. One of my favorite stories of hospitality is found in Genesis chapter 18. And there's also this apocryphal story, may or may not be true, but it's this traditional story about Abraham's tent. And the idea is that Abraham was known for his hospitality. And in the tradition, it says that Abraham had a tent that was open on all four sides. And in my mind, I'm picturing something kind of like a canopy. This week, we got our mailer from the local Aldi store, and they had advertised that they had had these inflatable kiddie pools for sale. And we knew that they were going to go quickly because those are hot items right now. Hot, no pun intended. Everything's hot right now. So the kids and I, we got ready and we made plans, and we were going to arrive at Aldi when they open up at 9 a.m. And we were running just a little bit behind, and we pull in the parking lot, and we rush in, and we take our quarter and put it in to get the cart out. If you've been to Aldi, you know what I'm talking about. And we go in the front door, we walk through that door at 9:08. And at that time, we see the last kiddie pool going to the checkout line. But anyways, what we got instead, hopefully you can see this. You make that out? We got an instant canopy. It's this tent that's open on all four sides. That's what I imagine Abraham's tent to have been like. And the idea is that Abraham had this reputation for being a giver of hospitality, a very hospitable person. So in Genesis chapter 18, Abraham has these 3 visitors show up, unannounced, wasn't planned, he didn't know them. And the idea that they would have come from any 4 directions means that they could have been of any different racial or ethnical background. They would have been of different religious backgrounds as well, because Abraham was the first Hebrew, so nobody else was his religion. But he welcomed these people in, and he showed them hospitality. It says in the text that Sarah baked bread, a servant butchered the fatted calf, and Abraham himself prepared curds and whey, because he evidently was reading about Miss Muffet. I don't know. No, curds and whey, this would have been a treat. This would have been like a dessert for them. And as we read through this text, we find out that these men were not just men. No, when Abraham showed hospitality to those 3 strangers, we find out he was really showing hospitality to the Lord. And this reminds me of Matthew chapter 25, where Jesus says, if you show hospitality to the weak, to the poor, to the naked, if you help the least of these in your community, you are actually showing hospitality to Jesus himself. In Hebrews chapter 12, we read that when people show hospitality to strangers, sometimes they were unaware that they were actually showing hospitality to a messenger of God. And in the Greek, the word that we translate as messenger of God is angelos. We more frequently translate that as an angel. Entertaining angels. You see, hospitality is a huge theme in the Bible. And it's not just about giving. It's also about receiving. So I come back to this concept of Sheldon Cooper in The Big Bang Theory and my own aversion to giving and receiving gifts. If showing hospitality is just about giving and receiving equally, this concept of reciprocity, you show me hospitality, I must show you hospitality, we must do so equal. You give me a gift, I give you a gift, and if I don't give you an equal gift, I owe you. Well, that's missing the point. Hospitality is about serving others, because when you do so, God is present, and you are serving God in that moment. Someone recently said that it's not just about giving, however. For those of us who don't like to be served, we must keep in mind that when you only give, it's very patronizing and one-sided. Now, I realize that sometimes when others are trying to show hospitality to you, and maybe I should just speak from my own perspective, when others try to show me hospitality, I kind of cringe a little bit because I'm like, I know you don't have the money to do this. It's poor stewardship on your part. So why are you giving me a gift, or why do you want to take me to this place? What are you thinking? Maybe you should save that money. But I also realize that if I don't allow others to give, I'm being very patronizing and one-sided. And in some cases, I may be even keeping them from experiencing the presence of God. One of the most profound experiences that I have ever had involves a gentleman, and I won't use his name here. Let's just call him Tim. Tim is a guy that we have helped out here at the church a number of times in a number of ways. He doesn't have a steady source of income, and he's got some other challenges as well. So we've helped him financially to pay some bills. We've helped him through some mentoring and just through conversation and teaching. And we've poured a lot of energy and time and money into this gentleman. I have poured a lot of time and energy into this gentleman as well. And he realizes that. And he wanted to show hospitality. He wanted to show his thanks. And he wanted to take me out for breakfast. So of course, at first I pushed back a little bit, and I'm like, I know we just gave you some money last month to help pay your rent. Maybe we could do something else. Maybe we could do something a little cheaper. But he insisted. He wanted to take me to his favorite restaurant for breakfast. He wanted to take me to Hardee's. Now, let's be honest. Of all the fast food restaurants out there, Hardee's would not be at the top of my list. But I do hear that they have a pretty good breakfast, and I'm a huge fan of biscuits and gravy. So, you can't mess that up, right? Biscuits and gravy, I hear they do that right. So I joined this man for biscuits and gravy and a 99-cent cup of coffee one morning. It was one of the most spiritual and profound experiences of my life. Sitting there with a man, enjoying our conversation and enjoying the food that he bought for me. You see, this is not about reciprocity. This is not just about equal exchange of goods or food or money. Because if we're talking about the amount of money that we have given to him or the amount of time that we've put into working with him, I don't think, one breakfast at Hardee's for $8.99 probably isn't going to cover it. But it's not about that. The point is that when we show hospitality, we are really hosting God. When we show hospitality, God is among us. My friends, I want to encourage you to be hospitable. Share the things that you have been given with other people, whether that's your money or your time, your energy, whatever that might be. Open your hearts, open your homes, open your lives to other people. And if you're like me and you have a hard time receiving, for whatever reason that might be, keep in mind this is not about trying to exchange equal amounts of items or goods. When people are hospitable, God is there. And I want to encourage you to allow other people to be hospitable to you. All right, friends, go out and show hospitality and receive it as well.